Hey guys, thanks for tuning in. Appreciate you guys for following us. And if you're subscribing, we really appreciate it, or following us, whether it's on social media at Mentors4MIL, on our YouTube channel, on any of the audio platforms. Be sure to subscribe, leave comments, let us know how well we're doing. For this episode, Kyle and I wanted to talk a little bit about the guest that we just had on to get you guys ready, because John Hensley is a local musician, in which I found myself going to a brewery and said, dude, you're a veteran, you play great tunes, love to have you on, have you play a couple tunes, but also talk a little bit about the backstory and the song. So it was really cool having him on the show. Very different from what we're accustomed to.
It's completely different from what we're accustomed to, and I think this is something that the open mind of our viewers is going to be enlightened a little bit, and they're going to see a different side of the show. But it's going to be great things because we got a veteran that's doing something different, and I can't wait for everybody to see it.
All right, so make sure that you hit that subscribe button, like us, leave your comments. Appreciate everybody giving us all the support. Y'all be good. Enjoy the episode. All right, we're back in studio and everything, and we're sitting here with John Hensley. Thanks for coming in the studio, brother.
Hey, man, thanks for having me. This is going to be awesome.
He brought a guitar too, Rob.
Yeah, no, I'm actually looking forward to that. And let me explain how it is that I met John. So John was at a brewing company that was in performing. He was the gig or whatever for that evening. And so I'm there with my family, and we're just having a good time. It's actually beautiful weather. I want to say like March time frame, and it just got warm. I mean, that was one of those weird days that snowed, I think, the week before, and then all of a sudden it's like 74 degrees, and you had to get out and about.
Yeah.
So we were outside in the patio area and such, and you actually weren't supposed to come on for like 30 minutes, and you got up there and you did a little sound check, and everybody really got into it. So you just decided to start kicking it off, which I thought was really cool, by the way.
Thank you, man.
And when you started performing and started doing actually the set, one of the songs was, we'll get into it and more, was about some of your buddies and everything and your experience in the military and the whole bit. And I just told my family, I go, I've got to go up there and talk to him. And all my family were like, oh, go. And that's when I came up and said, hey, you probably thought, who is this guy walking up at the time?
You know, it happens a lot when you play music. People are like, oh, that's cool what that guy's doing. Because I've noticed that, like, when you sing in front of people, they think you're like performing magic live in front of them because they don't know how to do it. And so they want to come and figure out what you got going on and talk to you about it, which I love. And so I was actually really happy to meet you.
Yeah.
It was a cool moment.
Well, I thought it was as well. And I always love meeting veterans. And so Kyle and I had talked about it, being around here for as long as we have. We're finding that there is this pretty good size veteran community that's right here. And we really need to tap into it a whole lot more. I mean, people come on this show from all over the world, literally. And we've got some great people like yourself. So thanks for coming in the studio and taking some time out.
Man, I'm super happy to be here. I got to watch a little bit of your stuff earlier, and really compelling stuff. And I think it's cool what you're doing, giving back to the veterans like that. So
yeah, appreciate it. Well, we love doing it as well. So let's get into your story and your journey. Are you originally from this area? We're south of Atlanta, by the way, for those who are not familiar with this podcast and stuff. But are you from this area locally?
I am. So I grew up right here in town, and I grew up when I was a young man. Obviously, we were a kind of a lower income family here in town. And the first place that I remember living was over at the Section 8 apartments right over here off of East Broad, Highland Apartments, right?
Is that right? I know exactly where that's at.
Yeah, so that was the first place I remember living. We lived there until I was probably, 4 or 5 years old. And then we kind of moved across town, and we got into a modular home, which was great. And so I was born here. I was raised here. And so I'm about to be 37. My birthday, I think, is next Friday.
Well, happy birthday.
Yeah, I think it's next Friday. That sounds better. And so I grew up right here in town, and I joined the Army Reserve right out of high school. And so I left for basic training about 6 days after I graduated. Because I was, like I said, coming from a lower income family, I was trying to figure out what to do next in my life. My parents both are great, hardworking people, but they both were high school dropouts and didn't really know, because of that, they had a lot rougher time as just people. So I was trying to figure out a way to improve my situation. And so I thought, man, I'd like to go to school, and the military will pay for that. And so I joined right out of high school, man, went to basic training, and then came back and started going to college. I enrolled here locally at University of West Georgia, and I was in college. Yeah, I was in college for about a month, and we got orders to go to Iraq. So
nice.
That kind of put a quick damper on that, which was kind of fun. So I withdrew that first semester and was like, well, I guess I got to go do this first. And
what was the MOS that you ended up going into?
So I went to HR because I was trying to figure out something I could do when I got out of the Army. Like, we had to do something you could do in the real world, right? And, being 18 years old, I thought, oh, that'll probably work. Which I was not great at, believe it or not. I was not great at HR. I was much more into the Army stuff. I'm like, oh, I like this shooting and running thing.
Yeah.
I'm not so good at this paperwork aspect of it, but I did that. And then we went over to Iraq. I kind of worked in airfield, so I don't know how. I mean, I'm sure you guys have both been over. You fly into those little passenger terminals. Mm-hmm. And so I basically ran one of those for a year. I was putting people on Black Hawks, Chinooks, and C-130s and getting people around the country because back in 07 and 08, it's still kind of hot over there.
Yeah.
Way too dangerous to drive around. If you could avoid it, you should. So
absolutely.
But yeah, that's kind of what I did. I did that for that year, which was a cool experience. But obviously, there's a lot that comes from it.
Yeah. So what was the unit that you were? Was it an AG unit or?
So I was with an AG unit right here out of Decatur, Georgia, and we got attached to the 101st HR when we went over.
Okay.
And so that's who I got to go with, which was cool.
Yeah. Yeah. So did you get the Screaming Eagle?
I did. Yeah, that's awesome.
Nice.
Yeah, I'm proud of that.
Yeah.
And my uncle actually is a Vietnam veteran, or was. He's passed away now, but he was a Vietnam vet, and he also went over the 101st, so that was kind of neat.
Nice
to get to wear the same patch that you did. So
that's cool.
Did you get a chance to ever go to air assault or anything?
No, I did not. I wish I would have. I got selected right before I got out of the Army. I was an E5, and they recruited me to be a drill sergeant. And unfortunately, I was too big. I got into the school, and I got up there and said, hey, buddy, you're a little too big. Get out of here. Yeah, so I was like, oh, man, what a bummer. Because it's a hard school to get into. You have to have a good PT score. And I was great at all that. But they were like, yeah, man, unfortunately, you're just too heavy. You got to get out of here.
So did you end up going active duty then at some time?
No, I didn't. I was going to do it as a reservist. They had a reserve drill sergeant unit. And my plan was to, go to drill sergeant school. And then, I was going to try to do a couple of basic training rotations because you could do that as an AGR.
Yeah.
And so that was kind of the plan I had. But, it didn't really work out. So I just kind of got out of the Army at that point.
I got to be honest with you. I've got awful memories when, I don't know if it happened to you, when I was going through OSIT, the reserves came through. I was going through in, I went into June, got out of OSIT in September. So it was their summer 2-week.
Yeah.
They happened to come, the drill sergeants. It was a nightmare, man.
Trying to prove a point?
Yes, very much.
Yeah, I'm sure.
Throw in our stuff out the window and keeping up us.
We're not in that phase anymore. You know what I mean? Like we've.
Oh yeah.
So I didn't like the reserve drill sergeant.
I'm sure you didn't, especially if you're there for 2 weeks. I had no intention of doing that. It was like, I mean, you're absolutely right. I mean, what are they really going to teach you in 2 weeks anyway?
Yeah.
They're just going to get there and get in the way. And
that's exactly what they did. They just tried to make our life miserable, wouldn't allow us to sleep and the whole bit, fire drills and just crazy stuff. They just wanted to screw with us.
The drill sergeant unit that I was attached to here in same place in Decatur, these were all guys that were actually, they were former active duty drill sergeants. And so like they kind of told us all about that stuff. And these guys had done, several rotations on the trail. And it was fun because they were all infantry guys. And I'm like, I'm not an infantry guy. So, I mean, it's like just fun to hang out with them and hear how they explain things.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh, these guys are real deal. I like this. So I enjoyed it even though I get to do it.
How long did you end up staying in then?
I did 6 years in the reserves.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what did you the whole time 71 series or?
No, I was 42.
42.
Yeah, HR man. Yeah.
They went from 71 to
42 Alpha.
42.
Yeah, it was like the catch-all. They just start, whatever the Army needs, they do that.
Yeah. Only the one rotation then, or?
Yeah, just the one. Yeah, I'd gotten married, and my wife was kind of like, "Hey, I don't really want you to go do that. That sounds like it'd be terrible." And so I was like, "All right." So
when'd you end up doing for civilian job then?
Yeah, so I got back from Iraq and I went to college for about, I don't know, like a year and a half. I met my wife immediately when I got back at college. And I was like, well, we got to get married, but I have to have a real job because, you can't live off that reserve money. That's not going to work.
Yeah. And
so I thought, man, like all the Army guys, I was like, law enforcement would be something I'd probably be all right at. And so I started putting in applications and I ended up landing at Gwinnett County Police Department up in North Metro. And so I worked up there for several years and I got into that. And turns out I was really good at that. Like, easy job. All you have to do is find bad guys and put them in jail.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh, this is an easy gig. I can do this all day long. And so I did that for several years, and until we started having kids, and then my wife said, "Hey, I'd like for you to be home at night," because I spent like 5 years in a row on night shift because that's when all the bad guys are out.
Yeah,
that's who I was kind of looking to hang out with. So I was a vampire for a while there.
Wow.
But that was a fun gig. But I had to get rid of that because my wife said, "Hey, you need to be home because we have kids, and it's hard for her to get up all night every night and go to work the next day." So I took a job. Now I work for the county solicitor general's office here, and we prosecute all the misdemeanor crime in the county. And so I worked there as an investigator, helping the prosecutors get ready for the trials and things like that.
Ah, okay. So you're the guy that goes out and tries to find all the good smut on the individuals.
Yeah.
In a legal way.
Yeah. Yeah. The cops do an amount of work, and I do the rest of it.
Yeah.
And so they do a portion, and then
that was very political and amount.
No, right? Well, they're great guys, man, and I'm not trying to knock them. But they just get busy and they move on. And
what I hear, Kyle, is that we have a contact. So that's great to know.
Yeah.
I've met quite a few folks. Yeah. And so I'm still technically a deputy. The sheriff has deputized me, so I still have all the powers, but I don't really do any of that real work anymore.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was a fun gig.
That's interesting. Very interesting. So now you've also been in studio recently.
Yeah. So I just recorded 5 new original songs that I had written, and I'm really excited to see how those are going to turn out. I have a band here in town, and last year we recorded 3 original songs of mine, one of the ones that you heard.
Yeah.
And, I thought, man, this is cool. I really just wanted to do it for something for my kids to have when they were older. My father-in-law, before he passed, was a musician, but my wife doesn't have anything of his stuff. And so I thought it'd be cool just to have something to pass on to my kids when they got older. And I recorded these 3 songs, and I ended up sending 2 of them to the radio, and they played a couple of them on 94.9 here in Atlanta.
Nice.
Which is like the #1 country station in Georgia. So that was a huge deal. And, when you put out 3 songs and they play 2 of them, you're like, well, maybe I should write more songs. Maybe, maybe I had a knack for this and didn't know. And so, I started kind of pursuing that a little bit more.
And you just opened up for Big and Rich.
Yeah, man. I was blessed. The NRA sent me a message on Instagram. They were looking for a veteran musician to sing the national anthem at their national meeting. And I told you earlier, they Googled Georgia veteran musician, and apparently my Instagram page popped up.
That's so bizarre, man.
Yeah.
To come out that way and get that type of opportunity.
Oh, yeah. And it was really funny, actually, because the guy calls me on the phone. He's like, yeah, can you sing the national anthem? And I go, sure. I've never sang it. I have no idea if I can do it. And he goes, really? And I go, yeah. He goes, well, how are you going to do it? I said, well, Chris Stapleton did a good job. I'll probably just do what he did.
Yeah.
And he goes, really? Like, he gave me like a confused look. Like, really? You going to try to do that? And I go, yeah, because I cover his stuff. I think he's a great musician.
Yeah.
I said, yeah, give me like 2 days and I'll send you a recording. I'll record something in my house and I'll send it to you. And so I sat at home and I worked on it for a few hours both days. And he's like, hey, do you got that recording? And I go, yeah, give me a few minutes. So I go upstairs in my studio and lay down a guitar track. And then I start singing the vocal and I'm like, oh man, this is harder than I thought it was going to be. And so I took a few swings at it and, kind of mixed the audio, put a little reverb on there, a little compression, make it sound nice. And I sent him this file of me singing it. And it was like radio silence for like 15 hours. And I was like, oh man, I bombed. Like, he doesn't like it at all. And then like the next day, like no joke, 15, 16 hours later, he sends me a text and goes, hey, I sent that to everybody in the NRA. They love it. It's you. And I go, oh, cool. And now I'm really nervous, right? And this is, they do this national event like every year, and it's like their national members meeting. So you're talking like, and the Big and Rich show, they're going to have a few thousand people there.
I didn't even know this event was going on, but evidently there was something that was going on. I can't remember where, Vegas or some other place for the military. And they go, well, the reason why it's not doing as well is because everybody's in Georgia for the NRA event. And then I saw on your social media page that you're actually playing at that. And I go, what the hell? Yeah. How is this? And you got it lined up with it. So cool story.
Yeah, it was a really interesting series of events that kind of fell into place. And like, I get to the point with music that, it's discouraging because it's a very competitive business and, people want you if you have a certain look or a certain sound. And, I get to the point every few months where I'm like, maybe I should just pack it in and move on. And, I'm not getting any younger, but every now and then something cool happens, and I'm like, all right, I'll keep playing.
Yeah.
Because you never know what's going to happen, right?
No, you never know. In the music business, it's one of those things that's just really a lucky draw,
Yeah. I had somebody describe it as, you have to work really hard, then you have to have a horseshoe up your butt.
Yeah.
And so, whenever your moment happens, it is,
You think about all those people that actually, try out for either acting or, music or something of that nature. It just really takes that one opportunity. And then even then, you can put out an album. We've known, a bunch of different people that put out albums and then they just don't go anywhere.
Oh, yeah.
It's an album and they can say that they cut an album, but it doesn't take off. Nowadays, though, with things like Spotify, you hit things like new artist on Spotify. Boom, all of a sudden, John Hensley pops up.
Yeah.
And now I'm like, who's this John Hensley dude? Well, you just put out 5 new songs. Now you've got 5, 8 songs, and they go, well, I'm going to follow this guy.
Yeah.
And that's where it starts taking off.
Yeah, it's just like, you got to keep on throwing a line in the water, You can't catch a fish without a line in the water. So,
there you go.
It's been a fun experience, and like I said, I've been blessed just with a lot of really cool things that have been going on, so that's been fun.
What made you go into the country route? Was it more like a love of Southern rock or country growing up? Or
my dad loved 80s like hair metal bands. Like that was like his thing. Like he loved all that stuff, and that was really not my thing, but he loved it. And when I started, I think it's because I started playing acoustic guitar. That's kind of the guitar I learned how to play on, which is an interesting story. I'll tell you how I started that in a minute. But I started playing acoustic guitar, and I was like, well, I have to play songs that I can play on this. And a lot of it was country songs. And then, I really just, I fell in love with the storytelling aspect of it. Country music, it's all about like, hey, can you tell a compelling story? Is it something that somebody want to hear again?
Yeah.
And so that's kind of how I landed in that. And then, the Southern rock thing, I think just my voice, the way I sing, it just kind of fits that genre. And for whatever reason, I always just thought like the Allman Brothers, I thought was like the greatest band ever.
Yeah.
I mean,
they're up there.
Yeah, they're fantastic.
100%.
Well, you mentioned, who you kind of like to play, which is Chris Stapleton.
Yeah.
And of course, that guy's just got so much soul in his voice, and like he's lived for a lifetime. So,
oh, yeah.
When I did hear you play, I kind of felt the same way, to be honest with you. It's like, and now hearing your story, it kind of explains it. You have to have lived something so that you can really make others believe into what it is that you're singing.
Oh, yeah.
And if you can't pull somebody along and help them understand what the song's about, it doesn't work. And you can even watch things, crazy like American Idol or those types of things of The Voice. So often the judges and coaches will say the exact same thing. You've obviously lived, a life in which you can be not just a storyteller in terms of singing the words, but actually getting the point across during the song. So,
well, thank you, man. I appreciate that. That's a really nice compliment.
Yeah.
Like I said, I didn't know that I had the chops to be a songwriter. I respect a lot of guys that write great songs. Like Tyler Childers is a great songwriter. Chris Stapleton's a great songwriter. Jason Isbell's a great songwriter.
Chris Stapleton's written I think half the #1 hits in Nashville the last 20 years.
He needs to save some talent for the rest of us.
Yeah.
That guy.
So what does your songwriting process look like? Do you hear it first, or do you write the words first, or what? Like, is it melody based, or is it lyric based, or?
Yeah, it's kind of interesting because I don't know that I actually have one. Sometimes I just get a random idea. Like I'll be talking to somebody and I'll go, oh, that'd be cool, and then I'll start with a guitar part that I've been tinkering with, or sometimes I just wrote one recently where I literally just sat at my desk and I wrote all the lyrics down, and I had no melody in mind at all. So I had nothing. I just wrote these lyrics down, and then I went home and I grabbed my guitar and I said, hey, let me just find a melody that will work with this. And it was kind of surprising to me how little I had to edit, because normally if you do that, you have to figure out how to reshape the words to kind of fit the cadence of the song. But I didn't have to do that very much with this one. I thought, well, maybe this song was supposed to be like this.
So how powerful does that feel when something like that works out? Like you can, I feel like that would be like a shot in the arm. Like, okay, I'm pretty good at this. If I can get this.
Yeah.
You hear about these songwriters that, it took 20 minutes. Me and another guy on a guitar, 20 minutes.
Right.
That song's done.
And I think that's how the good ones happen.
Yeah.
I've heard quite a few really influential and powerful songwriters that have said, I don't write these, I just write them down.
Yeah.
And I think that some of those are just from God. I think they just gives them to you.
Yeah.
And you're just the guy who gave them to that day. And so you get to write something down and oh, that was really powerful. I didn't know that was in there. Where'd it come from?
What I'd love to do right now is get you to play the song that we were talking about that I overheard, and then I want to get into the backstory of that and what the process, what Kyle just said, the process of that. How did that all come about? And so I think if people hear it and hear the lyrics and everything, then it'll be something for us to really talk about.
Walking around age of 18, thought I had it figured 'cause I seen some things. Mouth writing checks I had no way to cash. Just a dumb kid living hard and fast. When I left school, joined the army, found out quick, didn't know a thing. Trip to the deserts where I learned about loss, how to be a man and how much it cost. I thought I'd seen it all, but I haven't. I seen living and dying and laughing and crying all happen. But I know it can't always be that way. Good times come, hard times fall away, and I see better days. Days where it won't rain. Came back home, tried the college thing out. It wasn't for me what they were talking about. My mind playing tricks it never played before. Didn't realize it'd be another war. Nights on the streets, never thought they'd slow down. Putting more quarters in my merry-go-round. And I found a bottle just trying to sleep. Turn my thoughts down, try not to think. I thought I'd seen it all, but I haven't. I seen living and dying and laughing and crying all happen. But I know it can't always be that way. Good times come and hard times fall away, but I see better days. Days where it won't rain. Met a good woman and I settled down. 2 little girls running around. Heart so full, a great family. God so good, can't help but believe. But even on the days I think about the pain, remember the times all I saw was the rain. I know now the Lord was always there. I was never alone, not anywhere. I thought I'd seen it all, but I haven't. And I see Jesus and angels and loved ones lost. It'll happen, and I'll be singing sunshine every day. Sorrow gone, the clouds will drift away, and I see better days. Days where it can rain.
All right.
That was awesome.
Yeah, appreciate it, man.
Thank you.
So tell us the backstory behind that then.
Interesting. That's kind of one of the first songs I really ever wrote that I finished. I had like I said, I didn't think I really had the aptitude for songwriting when I was a younger man. I just thought, just didn't think I could do it. And that was one of the first ones that I ever actually wrote. That was an entire song. It had different parts and it made it to the right length. And so the kind of backstory is, I told people, people would meet me all the time and they'd see me at a party, we'd be drinking, having some drinks, and I'd tell them what I do for a living and kind of like my life story. They go, "Man, you've done a lot of weird stuff, man. I bet you've probably seen it all, right?" And I say, "Yeah, there's pretty much, there's not a whole lot I hadn't seen out there, being a soldier and being a cop, my whole life." And I thought, that's an interesting concept. You think you see it all, but, at the end of the day, and for me, I focused on just the things that I saw that were negative. And, and I had, a lot of struggles with my mental health for, several years because, the one saving grace to go into combat is there's a point where the combat tour ends and you actually go back home. When you're a police officer, that kind of never stops.
Yeah.
And so the next day you just go back out and do it again. And so you're kind of in this habitual, level of, awareness about things that are going on around you. And you become, you get that hypervigilance you have just like in the military, but it never goes away because, you're always doing it every single day of your life. And, so for me, it was kind of, maybe I'll write a song about, I thought I seen it all. And to me, that was always the negative stuff. But eventually, there's going to be a day where it's not going to be a bad day anymore. You're going to have, some positive things in your life. And I started to try to think about how can I spin that to where I can highlight some of the positive things that have happened in light of some of the negative things that have happened. And so I kind of started the song like with that. And that was kind of, like the whole song's really my life story. It got to the point where, being a police officer for several years and working in a very high crime ridden area, I saw just a bunch of really terrible stuff, people that murdering their children. Sexual assaults against their own kids. Just the amount of violent crime that I saw day in and day out, just makes you really lose faith in humanity as a whole. But at the end of the day, you have to realize that that's not everybody's life and that's not all of life. There's always going to be a day where something better is going to happen. And, you just have to run through the mud for a while and eventually you'll come out on the other side and you'll be okay again. And so the song's kind of about that, and that's what I really wanted to convey with it.
Well, you did. And it's a powerful song, man. I appreciate you sharing that with us.
Yeah, man. I sent that to my guys in the band and, I had the first time we cut a couple of songs, I had probably 6 or 7 to choose from. And that one I sent thinking they're probably not going to want to do this one, but like everybody was like, no, we got to do that one. And that's probably the only song I've never really promoted. Like I never actually talked about releasing. I just threw it out into the world. And it's funny to me that like people will listen to my stuff on Spotify or on Apple and they'll go, well, how long has this song been out there? And I go, oh, it's been out since the rest of them came out. And they go, I'd never heard this one. Like, I love it. And I go, oh, well, I appreciate that. I just never really told anybody because to me it was personal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And my oldest daughter loves it. And, I really recorded it for her. Like I said, my band liked the song too. So, so we started playing it and then, I'll give you a cool story. I was down in your neck of the woods down in Sonoy. I was down at the beer company there playing and there was I don't remember, I mentioned something about being a veteran during the middle of the show and the guy's like, hey, do you have any songs that you wrote? And I'm notorious for forgetting lyrics and forgetting how to play the song. And I go, yeah, I got one. And that was the one I could remember how to play. And I played that one. And he came up afterwards like, you got to record that. That's great. And I thought, oh man, that's cool. And that was kind of the first time I remember like something I wrote actually connecting with another person. Cause that's what, the goal of songwriting is. You want to be able to touch something inside of somebody else. And that, to me, that's what makes music so powerful is that, they can hear your experience and they can, identify with it. Yeah. And that was kind of the first time I remember, somebody being like, oh, that's cool that you did that. And like, I felt what you said. And there was another veteran that kind of, steered me in that direction, which was cool, And yeah, that was a cool tune. I was happy with how it turned out. The recording came out nice. There's some cool violin parts in there that are great, I think. And like I said, people have, I just released a new song and people listened to that song and then somehow stumbled upon this one. And I have gotten like, several text messages, hey man, how long's that been out there? And I go, man, it's been out there for like a year now. And they go, I had no idea. And I go, well, yeah, man, I'm glad you like it. Thanks for listening to it.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it's that one, like I said, I didn't expect people to really, attach to it, but they, for whatever reason, people do.
People find what's real.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, absolutely.
Everybody, they'll find the realest song on any album, like the one that means the most.
Right.
And you can feel that. That's the reason why, when I was sitting there listening to it and, outdoors, having a good time, and all of a sudden you said what you said and started playing the song, it resonated and it was like, whoa, geez, okay. Because it was the story that was there. And that story was like, all right, I got to know you better through the lyrics of the song.
Yeah.
Yeah, man, that's cool. That's cool you say that, man. It really makes me encouraged.
Yeah.
And this record that we just did, I wrote, I quit drinking about, 536, something like that ago.
But who's counting?
Yeah, who's counting? Well, I have an app on my phone that tells me because I don't,
that's awesome.
Every now and then it just pops up a little notification. Hey, you haven't drinking this long. And I go, cool, that's great. And it gives me a little bit more confidence to be a little more vulnerable with people because, at the end of the day, like you hear a guy write a lyric and you're like, man, I know exactly what that guy was talking about.
Yeah.
And that's the kind of stuff I've always been drawn to. as a listener. And so it's good to be able to be a little more vulnerable and kind of open up your life to somebody.
Well, I think, what's key here is that so often people associate combat arms or infantry or whatever, or those that typically went outside the wire frequently, as the only people that experience combat or seen the trauma behind it.
Sure.
And I think what you're stating is that, no, that's not necessarily true. And the lyrics of the song certainly portray that.
Yeah.
Not to mention, as a police officer, you have to continuously go back, and we talked about this with Red, go back to the same scene of the crime all the time.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. It's something, man. Like I said, I didn't spend really any time outside the wire in Iraq, but, working in the airfield like I did, every time we lost a soldier, that person came through, and we had to make sure they got on the plane and got where they were going. And so, I remember very vividly the first time we called them hero flights.
Yeah.
And, I remember being at the time I just turned 19. And I remember thinking, when I got there, I was like, oh, I'm going to be fine. Nothing's going to happen. We got, the base got attacked a few times, and I never really thought, I'm going to be okay. But I remember, that first time, you see a whole battalion lined up, and they're walking that casket up through the middle and being like, oh, this could really happen today. There's very few memories that I remember very vividly from being there. First day we got there, got off the plane, how it smelled, and, how it was hot, even though it was 2 a.m.
Yeah.
And then, I remember that very much. And we had a bunch of those because, like I said, 07, 08 was still a really big time. It was busy, and there was a lot of things that were still happening there. And, they happen very often. And those are the things that have stuck with me. For the longest time, I didn't go to military funerals. I lost a guy here in town I grew up with. He got blown up in an IED. They named the road right up the road from where we went to school after him. And I didn't go to the funeral because I was like, I'm not going to be able to deal with that. It's just going to be too much for me. And, law enforcement funerals, same thing. I didn't go to those for years just because I couldn't do it. But yeah, so interesting stuff, man. But songwriting, it's fun. Man. I love it.
What do you think? You can also play, can you remember the lyrics and everything to the national anthem and play that one for us maybe?
I have to do a little bit of tuning. So if we get a 5-minute break so I can retune this guitar.
Yeah, let's do it.
I'll be happy to do it, but I have to tune it to a different tuning.
Yeah, let's do it.
All right, cool.
No, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed, and at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight, nor the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rockets' red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say, does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave?
Nice.
Play ball.
I wanted that last note to just kind of linger there for a second.
That's good.
And it makes you honestly, when military, I don't know about you guys, when you're sitting at a baseball game, football game or whatever, and that thing comes on.
Oh, man, you just feel your whole spine.
Even if I'm walking, I can't see the flag, can't see the field, stop right where I am.
Oh, yeah.
Take off the hat,
I don't care.
turn to face the music, slap the boys, take your hat off, face that way.
Oh, yeah. Let me tell you, singing that in front of a lot of people was one of probably the most nerve-wracking performances of my life because, it's one of those songs.
Ask about the comfort level because those are assumed patriots at the event, right? Sure. And you would think that you could go out there with a kazoo and sing the national anthem. They're stand up and cheer. But
if you really think about like the national anthem historically, like think about the Super Bowl. Every time the halftime or the game starts, there's 30 million people that are going to comment online immediately. And they either love it or they hate it.
Yeah.
There's not like, oh, that guy did okay.
Yeah.
Like, it was an okay performance. Like, no one ever says that. They either love what you did or they hate you. Like, when Chris Stapleton did it, everybody's like, whoa.
Oh, no, that was a drop the mic the moment.
Oh, yeah.
But I will say that I have been to a high school baseball game. I'll tell you offline which one it is. But anyway, when the high school played the national anthem, I can't remember whose rendition it is, but it's one of those that I know we've had those moments when you were a soldier, you're locked up and everything, and they're playing the national anthem, and it seems like it drags on for 30 minutes.
Oh, yeah.
And then you appreciate then the Army band or Marine Corps band or whatever's version where it's like, and it's really cool.
You're thinking about standing there at attention. I'm like, I'm standing there for 2.5 minutes.
That's right. So when Chris Stapleton played it, it was really a drop the mic, like, and you can think of other moments like Whitney Houston and others and stuff.
Franklin crushed it.
Yeah,
right.
Absolutely. Those three are like, those are it. Those are the standard that all three are. Every national anthem is held against.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. It was an interesting moment doing that in front of that many people because, like I said, oh man, I hope they cheer at the end because if not, I'm gonna walk off the stage and be the quietest. It's gonna be the quietest thing. It's gonna be awful.
Yeah. And, so how was it? How did they end up? How did you feel you did?
I thought I did pretty well. The first note came out a little squeaky because I was kind of nervous. But after I kind of settled in, I'm like, I think I'm okay. And then when I hit the last note, like everybody went nuts, and I was like, okay, I think I'm all right.
Yeah.
And I came off the stage and I walked through the crowd because my wife had a seat. We were going to watch the show, and a couple of folks grabbed me and shook my hand, and one kid asked for an autograph, which was cool. I was like, oh, that's neat. I'm like, I'm just a guy. I live like 20 minutes from here. But thank you for asking. That was sweet of you. So I felt pretty cool for about.
So do you have like your autograph like ready to go?
No. Like, man, I just signed like a China bank check. It was terrible. I was like, man, this guy's going to think I'm a moron. But this guy's got a way polished autograph. Mine looks like a.
Yeah, unfortunately, if you ever hit the big time, then the poor kid's going to have an autograph that doesn't match everything else. And
I had to work on it. Like, I worked on it for 2 years to get this autograph down. That poor kid's got the original. It's terrible. Yeah. Poor guy.
Well, we'd love for you also to play something off of your now current album because, like you said, you just came out of studio and doing that, and you're going through engineering school up in Nashville.
Yeah, I was doing a school. There's a producer up there. His name's Joe West, and Joe's a big supporter of veterans, and I actually met him through a program over at Zach Brown's Camp Southern Ground. I attended a program over in 2023 there for veterans who are musicians and singer-songwriters, and that's actually, ironically, when I stopped drinking. The last drink I had was on the day I walked in there. And so, those folks helped me a lot. They do good work over at Camp Southern Ground. I know you've had them on the podcast.
Yes.
And I'd love to, continue to, preach the good word that they're doing a great job over there helping people. And
I was quietly doing it, by the way. Let me interrupt you just for a second, because I think one of the beautiful things that we loved about it was that, they do all of this God's work, basically, behind the scenes without Zach Brown really going out front and just saying, hey, support my nonprofit and everything else. Yeah. He's so much removed from it that you almost don't even know it's there. As a matter of fact, most people don't even know it exists.
Oh, yeah.
Or they know it exists, but they're not familiar that it exists for veterans.
Right.
They have civilian programs, stuff like that with kids and everything else as well, but what a great platform and a great program.
Yeah, it's awesome, man. And they helped me a lot. And what's interesting about it is I went there for a music program. I didn't even go for one of their veterans programs to like help you figure out how to transition. I went there just for something that was purely for music. And, I couldn't imagine what these guys can do if you give them a week to, really work on you. I was there for 4 days and like I lost 80 pounds and I quit drinking. And I started having all this other stuff that kind of fell into place because of it. So, and it happened in such a non-assuming and organic way.
Yeah.
And that was what made it kind of special for me because I didn't go over there with any intention of changing how I was living or anything like that. But like once I got there, I met some of the guys and I was like, man, you know what? Maybe I can be a little different.
Yeah.
And like maybe this alcohol thing's just not for me. I'm not productive when I'm doing that. And so, after that, everything just kind of started falling into place, man,
Yeah.
So that was cool. So I saw that as one of those divine moments that like, hey man, stuff's going the way it's supposed to, don't get in the way, right? Just let it happen. So
yeah, big shout out to Jake Dukes and the guys at Camp Southern Ground. They do great work.
Jake's good folks. Chris Murphy's a good friend of mine. We text back and forth all the time. Matter of fact, I was texting him today. So
nice. You told him he was coming on the show? Or?
Yeah, I sent him a picture of his ugly mug on your podcast. Let's get on this podcast I'm about to do. He's like, yeah, he looks familiar. I go, yeah.
Nice. So tell us about what you might want to share, a song you want to perform for us now off your latest
album. And then where we can find it.
Yeah, so those songs have actually not been released yet. So they are still being worked on. We cut the tracks, and I got my audio guy still working on them, and he's getting them all polished up, ready to go out into the world. So those ones aren't out yet. I do have 4. One I just released that when I met that producer I was telling you about up in from Nashville, Joe West, I just released a song that I wrote, and he helped me write a little bit of lyrics on. And that song's called West to Tulsa. That one's out on all streaming platforms. So it's on Spotify or Apple or Amazon or whatever you use. It's on YouTube. You can find it. That, and then I have 3 other originals that are currently out there on all those platforms as well. So anything you can listen to music on, they're on. So I would love if you guys listen to them a few million times a piece.
Nice.
Share them with 100,000 of your closest friends.
You bet.
And then you can see me playing one of those cool stadiums all the time.
Veterans supporting veterans. I think if we did a hell of a lot more of that, think about how far we'd go.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And, and that's what's really fun. I've done a couple of these podcasts, these veterans podcasts, and every time I do them, I get a message on Facebook, and I love getting them.
Yeah.
Hey man, I heard you on this thing, and I really love your songs.
Nice.
And that's the coolest thing. I had a veteran, lived in Alabama, drove all the way to town to see me play one night.
Great.
Yeah, which is amazing. And
it is.
He saw me on Guitars for Vets.
Yeah.
Doing a podcast. Which is awesome.
It is really cool when you think about the reach that we have. I mean, you think about the number of people who are veterans that are out there, and then those who are listening to podcasts, which is a different generation. It's not for everybody. But those who do, they get a chance to hear something like this and meet you and those types of things. I think it's tremendous. Like I said, if we did more of the quid pro quo, like, what do you need? Well, I can use this. Well, here, you know what? Here's something that you said you could use as well. We did. It'd be such a great place, a great world.
It's really cool, and a couple of these guys have reached out and said, hey, I'm writing some songs, man. Do you mind listening to them?
Oh, nice.
And I'm like, I don't know why you're asking me, but yeah, I'll listen to them. I'll tell you what I think. It's probably worth 2 cents, in the time it took me to say it, but I'll definitely give them a listen. I don't mind doing that. I think it's awesome.
So tell us about the song that you're thinking about performing now.
Yeah, so I'll probably play the one I just did called West to Tulsa.
Okay.
And I've never been to Tulsa, Oklahoma. I have no idea what it's like there, and I was sitting in my office one day, and for whatever reason, this line, West to Tulsa, hit my head. And I thought about it for an hour. And when that happens, I'm like, okay, something has to happen with that. Because normally they just go in one ear out the other, like all creativity does. And so I just move on. But for whatever reason, I just kept thinking West to Tulsa. And I was like, well, I got to come up with a compelling story about what would happen to somebody going West to Tulsa? What are you thinking about? And so I kind of wrote this story about, a guy coming home and, he's presumably been out drinking and his significant other's left him. I came home and there's a note on the table. And so I wrote that song, and it's about her leaving him because, he's done whatever he's done just too many times. And when I wrote it, I sent it up to Nashville to my buddy Joe up there, Joe West. Shout out to him at Apprentice Academy. That's his school. And, Joe's the real deal. He's got a Grammy as a producer, and he's written a couple number ones in his life, which is something cool to say about your friend.
Yeah.
And if you know a guy like that, he's willing to give your stuff a listen, I would say send it to him. And I sent him that one, and he said, buddy, you're 98% there on that one.
Yeah.
He's like, your hook's not good enough. The verses are too good and your hook's just not there. I said, I know, but I already wrote another one. It was worse. And so that ended up kind of morphing into me and him sitting down at his house. I spent the night and we kind of worked the song out and got the hook to where it is, and it's much stronger and it makes the song much more compelling. So I'll probably play that one.
I'm excited to hear it.
Yeah. Cool.
Stacked high with crushed
Nice.
Hey, thanks, man.
No, it's great, man.
Really good.
Yeah, man.
That's really good.
I tried to, paint this scene out. This is what I was going for. I heard
I got it.
write songs. They said, man, when you write a song, you got to like picture the movie scene.
Yeah.
And then fill in enough of the details to where they can make up the rest.
Yeah.
And so, I thought, oh man, he's going to come home. There's going to be an empty bottle of booze. And she's going to have a note down there. And she smoked an ashtray full of cigarettes. And then if you think about like the chorus, it's like, oh, well, there's a preacher on the radio. So what was that? It was probably Saturday night, right? Because it's Sunday morning.
Yeah.
So you start filling in the blanks, and that's what makes it cool, right? I was really proud of how that one turned out. They don't always turn out great.
Now that one turned out really good.
Yeah.
So what was the part of the hook that he actually helped you with?
So I think I originally had it written where she's headed west to Tulsa, just to a place down the road or something like that. And he's no, you need to say that. She's headed west to Tulsa, and I let her go.
Ah.
I like the ode to Trisha Yearwood with the Walk Away.
Oh man, you want to hear how that line came about?
That's awesome.
It's a cool story how that happened. So we were sitting on his back porch smoking cigars, and he walks over and says, he gives me a cigar and goes, let's smoke a cigar and we'll talk about songs that we like. And he's like, yeah, about the song that you really like. I was like, I was in my car recently with my wife, and we're riding down the road, and I'm listening to this song that she's got playing, and it was that song, Walk Away Joe.
It's such a good song.
And what drew my attention to the song was there's a guy that was singing backup harmony.
Yeah.
And I was like, who the hell is that
Hold
guy?
on, don't.
He's going to know who it is. This is what makes it cool.
What is it? Oh, Colin Ray?
No.
Who is it?
It's Don Henley.
So
Don Henley from the Eagles is backup vocals.
You're right.
Is that right?
Yes.
I didn't know that.
Like, and it's a beautiful song. And I'm like,
It's a great story.
It's a great story.
Yeah.
But I heard him come in on the chorus, and I was like, who the hell is that?
Yeah.
Because Trisha's got one of the best voices, in my opinion, of all the 90s country singers. The lady, she was one of my favorites. But like, I was like, who's that guy? And I look it up. I'm like, oh, it's Don Henley from the Eagles. Like, no wonder it's so good. And so we were talking about that, and somehow that line didn't exist. And I was like, we should work that Walk Away Joe line in there somehow. And I was like, okay. And then somehow after, smoking a cigar, we got to, she finally found a reason to leave the Walk Away Joe.
Yeah.
And I thought, oh, that's a great lyric. And
it actually is a great lyric. It's kind of a tip of the hat, but at the same time frame, as much as we call other Army guys, the person that the woman leaves for is Joe. It fits perfectly with that as well.
Yeah, what a cool line, right? I'm like, man, who knew that was going to be there? And that was a cool organic way. Like I said, that wasn't an original lyric, but we were just talking about that song and how much I liked how Don sang the backup part. And we ended up working it in there. So we changed a few of the lines. Like the main story was there.
Yeah.
And, but we just changed a couple of, the details to make it a little bit stronger. That cross hanging from the mirror, like that line wasn't in there originally. Mm-hmm. And, but in my head, I was like, oh, everybody's been in the South, and you see those folks that have like a rosary or something hanging off the rearview mirror, swinging back and forth down the road. And I kind of wanted to paint that.
It develops a story a little bit more too.
It does.
About her and why she left him. Yeah.
Like she's tired of his crap, man. Like, and we got to that point. We wrote that line about, I was ready to change line in there, but I don't remember how I had originally had the second part of it. And he was like, what do you think about saying like I was ready to change, but it was just too damn late? And I was like, oh yeah. Because like there's a lot of guys that have been to like I was trying to get better, but I just didn't do it fast enough. Yeah. And like I've had that in my own life, like where I knew I had problems and I was trying to be a better husband or a better father. And, you just feel like, oh man, am I going to be able to get it fixed in time? Yeah. And I was like, oh, that's cool. That makes it way better. And I remember playing it for my wife when I got home. She was like, whoa. I was like, yeah, I know, right? Something like that guy's written a couple hits. It's weird.
Yeah.
It's funny how that happens, though. I mean, if you start looking at, most of the albums and such, and you start looking at the people who wrote the song, usually it's 2 or 3 people. And that's the magic of what you're describing there, is that other individuals have maybe just a small input.
Yeah.
Maybe they write
the word is the third thing, right?
Right.
Yeah.
They write the bridge or they write the whatever, and you're right. Just those little things. And so having somebody like that you can, who can listen to it, who has experience that goes, make these small little changes here, tweak it this way.
Well, and it's fun how like quick and organic it is, and you really have to like be Johnny on the spot when you're like listening to people, because like what he'll do is, it's very interesting, his process. He'll just start singing like the melody, and he'll just sing like random words, and I'll go, ooh, and I'll write down one that I was like, oh, that would be cool. Let's revisit that. And I said, hey, you said something like this. Like, let's go back to that and see if we can explore something, because creativity is one of those things. He talks about it a lot. During the course of the class I was in, he said, man, it's like the wind. It'll blow right through and it's gone. And so you really have to be like in tune to what's happening and be in the moment, because if not, it'll just go.
And put more people in the room, let it bounce off a couple different people. Yeah.
And, and as a songwriter, sometimes you just get to this point where like, oh, the first verse came out really easily and I got the chorus out really well. And then you get to verse 2 and you're like, I'm at a dead stop. I have no idea where to go now. And, that one I'd gotten to where it was like, okay, this is at least a presentable song. And I said, hey, what do you think of this? I just wrote it. And then he was like, oh, I think that's got some real meat on the bone, man. I think you're there. And I go, okay. He's like, come up here and hang out with me for a day. We'll fix it. And, we did. And it was fun. Got to hang out with him. And you don't get to say, hey, I hung out with my buddy who's got a Grammy all weekend. And we smoked a cigar on the back porch and finished this song.
Hey, there you go. What a great story.
Yeah.
So when does the album come out?
So I'm hoping to get it out kind of during the summer is what I'm shooting for. My engineer's been very busy. He's got a lot of his own. He's a musician as well. So he's got a lot of big things coming up for him. And I tried to squeeze it in there. Before he went off and did all his stuff. I'm thinking he's going to probably make it. He's a very talented guy, and he's got some really cool opportunities coming up that we can't talk about. But I'm hoping it'll be out sometime midsummer. And I was really happy and proud to say we got 5 songs done. We spent 3 days over there and knocked out 5 different tunes, and they're all kind of a little bit different from one another. One's got a real Southern rock vibe. It's got that kind of Allman Brothers,
nice
Blackberry Smoke feel, a lot of big drive guitar, and then I got one that's like a straight up Western tune that I wrote that I was really proud of.
Marty Robbins
old school Western train beat. I'm like, really cool. I'm like, oh, that's going to be a fun one.
Yeah.
And then I have the song I wrote about, stopping drinking, and I wrote that one like a week before we went. So like, it's very raw, and it's about like my life and, overcoming, alcoholism and things like that. And then what else did we do? I did one that's like a straight 90s country tune. Like, that's
coming back.
It's coming
Zach
back.
Topp's coming back in a big way with that.
And I'll tell you the story of how I got the idea for that. We took my kids to a Braves game last year, and it was right when I started doing the engineering program. And so you get around creative people, and then you just become more creative through osmosis. Like stuff just turns on in your head. And we're driving home, and I look over, and there's like a neon sign. And I thought, oh, cool. My favorite 90s country songs, Neon Moon, right?
Brooks and Dunn.
It's the best one.
Yeah,
right?
that's so good.
It's like this is
Casey Musgraves, her cover of Neon Moon
great.
is
great.
Insane.
Yeah. And I'm like, oh, I should write a neon sign. I'm like, oh, I should write like Neon Angel. About a guy walks into a bar and meets a woman, then like she's like his angel, right? And so I wrote this little 90s country tune, and I was really stoked. Cool. And I was like, I told my buddy who's the guitar player, I said, hey, I need like those like pedal steel 90s bends.
Yeah.
And he's like, I got an idea. And he starts playing. I'm like, that's exactly what I was talking about.
You want something that people could two-step to.
Yeah. And that's exactly what it turned out to be. So that one was fun. And then I wrote one while I was over at Camp Southern Ground. That program that I attended for musicians, they were very nice, and they asked me to come back and do it again as a mentor. And I went over, and I just had this little swampy guitar part, that one I just played you a little bit of earlier. And I was like, oh, this is a cool little drop D little guitar part.
Yeah.
Like, and that's all I had. I had nothing. And another songwriter was there, one of the participants. He's like, what are you thinking about doing with that? I said, I don't know, dude. I think it's like swampy. So I kind of want it to be like gritty and maybe about a dude that like leaves and is like riding the trains or something cool. And he was like, okay. And I'm sitting there just playing the riff over and over again, trying to come up with a lyric. And he's like, I got 2 verses. I'm like, right now? He's like, yeah. And I go, all right, read them to me. And I was like, okay, I'll buy that. Let me start seeing it and see if I'm like, oh, that fits. We're going to make something out of that. And then I came up with a little, the chorus part, the refrain. He was like, yeah, do like that. And I'm like, all right, cool. And then, we worked on it for about an hour and a half. And then, we had to go to bed because we had to get up the next morning to do some of the stuff for the program. And at like 3 a.m., I have to get up and go to the bathroom. I have to pee. And I come out of the bathroom and I go, oh, I know the next verse. And I shit you not, I wrote it all like in the bathroom. I sang it into my telephone. I was like, don't forget it. I sang the lyrics out. And then I got up at like 6:30 a.m. and I walked outside and I'm like, all the words fit. This was supposed to be the verse. And so that was kind of fun. And then like, we get up the next morning, we go to lunch and I go, dude, I finished the song at 3 a.m. I had to go pee. And he's like, oh, cool. And I played it. He's like, oh, that's great, dude. I go, yeah, I know. I don't know where it came from. Man, so I had to pee at 3 a.m. What a weird time to have it.
And that's going to be on the album.
Yeah, that was going to be on the album. I just thought it was cool how it turned out.
What's the title of that one? Just so everybody's listening to this will know.
It's called Long Hard Road. And it's like, the story of a guy who leaves his wife because she was cheating on him. And now he's riding the rails and he's got like a drug addiction. It's actually a really interesting song. Like there's a line in it about like, like fighting the cold sweats and the shakes. And I'm like, oh, I want it to be about a guy who really like fell off the wagon hard, like riding the trains around the country. And so that was the song I wrote.
That's very cool.
So obviously music is your life.
Yeah.
Outside of family, faith, and all of that stuff. If you had one album you could only listen to for the rest of your life,
Ooh.
what album is that?
That is a tough one. Man, because I think about like the things I listen to the most. I really like Chris Stapleton's first record was very good.
Mm-hmm.
That Traveler album,
yeah,
because it had like Traveler. It obviously had Tennessee Whiskey on it. It had
the prison, wasn't it the
Death Row? I think was on it.
Fire Away.
When the Stars Come Out, Fire Away. That's a solid record.
Yeah,
like. Actually, his Starting Over record's really good too, because that one's got like Devil, Always Made Me Think Twice. Like, that's a banger. It's got Arkansas on it. That's one of my band covers that. No one knows it, but it's the best song on the record, in my opinion. So that probably be a tie between those two.
Okay, nice.
You know, Sturgill Simpson's first record, High Top Mountain, was a banger too.
I like Sea Stories.
Yeah, that one's cool too. Is that the one that had
or Sailor's Guide to the Universe?
Is that one with voices on it?
Yes,
that was my favorite song on that record by a lot.
And then the one he did after Sailor's Guide, that he had the anime movie to go along with.
That was trippy. I didn't know that.
Mercury and Retrograde, all that stuff. Oh man, he's one of my absolute favorites.
So I saw that record drop, and I had no idea about the backstory, and I just started playing, and I was like, what is happening? I was so confused, but I didn't know that he wrote it to go along with like an anime.
Yeah.
And so I'm like, I don't understand what's happening with these songs. It just didn't make any sense in my head.
But then you go on YouTube, turn the anime on,
and I go,
like, it tracks.
It's the soundtrack. That makes more sense now. And honestly, what an interesting artistic move on his part. Very cool, though.
Just like ZZ Top plus anime and acid equals that album.
Gets you in a totally different market, too, though, by entering it.
And it reminded me a ton. You say ZZ Top, because like Tush was the first song that came to mind when I heard it. I was like, oh, it's just like ZZ Top. It's like this real. And then I was like, well, what happened to the rest of the record? It got so weird. I was just confused by it. But like I said, when I looked it up, I'm like, oh, that makes more sense.
Yeah.
But I always liked him. He's got a great lyric in one of his songs that's like, you won't hear my songs on the radio or
new sounds all the rage.
Yeah.
You'll find me on a smoky bar in a dim lit stage.
Bad sound of the dim lit stage.
Yes.
That's the way it goes. I'm like, that's me right there. He's talking about me.
What is the other one? We got all these boys playing dress up, trying to sing those old country songs.
Yeah.
My favorite Sturgill Simpson story is him busking outside the CMAs
with a Grammy
in his guitar case,
because he didn't get an invite.
He didn't get an invite to the CMAs,
so he made the most rock and roll move ever. He just stood outside and sang with his guitar case open with the Grammy just sitting in it.
That's awesome.
Like, what a baller. Yeah.
He's a veteran.
You'll like him. Oh, he's really?
Yeah, he's a Navy vet.
That's cool. He makes him cooler. You'll like the song I'm about to release. I got one called Guys Like Me. It's that one that we heard, that kind of, that real upbeat one. And that's about that. Like, there's a line in there that's like, the whole point of it's like, people around town would come up to me and be like, hey man, are you visiting from Nashville? Because you're playing, you sound really great. I go, no, I live like 5 minutes up the road. And they go, oh, you ever thought about going to Nashville? I go, no. And they go, why? I was like, because they're looking for like 19-year-old blonde-haired girls that are pretty, that have 1 million TikTok followers. They don't care about me. And so the song is called Guys Like Me, and the whole, like, the hook is like, well, Nashville's not looking for guys like me.
Yeah.
And so the chorus is, I don't have long hair or blonde hair, long hair, sparkly eyes. I don't sing cold beer anthems on Friday nights. I don't give a damn about the flavor of the week. I hate country songs with hip-hop beats, and I can't squeeze myself in a pair of skinny jeans. And so Nashville's not looking for guys like me. And it ended up being a real fun one. I sent that one to my buddy Joe, and he said, that should be on your short list, because that's kind of like, in your face. And I was like, yeah, and it's true. It's like a true story. I just thought like a fan, when I was out playing one day, people would just come up and ask me stuff like that, and I always just thought it was funny. I'm like, I'm looking for 35-year-old dads.
All right, now you're going to have to play at least that line on the guitar.
Oh, yeah.
And then we'll close this thing out.
Yeah,
but
I'll give you the...
You got to give this one. This is too good.
I'll give you the chorus on it. Yeah.
All right.
I say I don't have long legs, blonde hair, sparkly eyes. Don't sing cold beer anthems loud on Friday nights. Don't give a damn about the flavor of the week. Hate country songs with hip-hop beats. Can't squeeze myself in a pair of skinny jeans. And I tell them in Nashville ain't looking for guys, not guys like me.
Hey, oh, yeah, that's good, man. Then my buddy wrote this great guitar part. It's like, it's got a real like pushing guitar part. It's really cool. So that one's going to turn out really nice. I like how it came out.
Oh, man, that's awesome. So what's next for John? What's going on after the album drops and everything? Is there a big tour set up? Or
man, I wish, man. That's my ultimate goal in life, is to be able to not work and just do music full time.
Yeah.
But, it's difficult when you have children and a mortgage and car notes and I'm on a motorcycle because I'm having one of those midlife crises.
There you go.
I'm like, oh, and so then the goal is to just be able to, figure out how to make earn a living playing music. If it's not playing, it's, writing or, producing stuff. I'm just trying to figure out where I fit.
Yeah. Well, tell me the social media account ways. You said Facebook. We know Instagram. Yeah. What's the handle or whatever that people can
so
find
on Facebook, you can either follow my personal account. You can be my friend. You don't have to follow me. I get a little paranoid with the PTSD. And so following people on the internet, it's weird for me. I'm like, just be my friend. It's okay. Just add me as a friend. If you don't, I'm going to add you as soon as you hit the follow button. Yeah. Because it makes it feel weird for me. So John Hensley on Facebook. I also have a dedicated music page, John Hensley Music. And then on Instagram, it's John Hensley 1443. That's just my old badge number. And then I'm on TikTok, but I don't even remember. I don't remember the name on that one because I feel like I'm just too old for the platform. I'm like, I need a 14-year-old girl to do all my content for that because I just don't have the bandwidth to do it.
Oh, I hear you. Mm-hmm. No, but I appreciate you coming on, man, taking time out, sharing your tunes.
Thank you, man.
Hopefully people will go out there, find you on Spotify, look you up and everything, follow you on social media, get a big following. A fellow veteran, reach out, help support him, help launch his career. That'd be awesome. This is something new for us. We've never done anything like this. So
cool. And it was awesome.
Yeah, really appreciate you coming in, bringing your Get Fiddle here and playing a couple of tunes for us.
Well, I appreciate y'all having me. I had a great time hanging out with y'all. Y'all are cool dudes, and we can hang out whenever y'all want because I think y'all are all right.
All right.